The work we do in personal branding, it sounds like it's all marketing and it's LinkedIn. No, it's really unlocking that beauty of what's inside you so you can share it with the world. You just got to be you. At the end of the day, can you be somebody else? He did some research. He's an interesting character. And then a month later, you connected with me and you said something else about that and says, I need to find out more about this Chiefs. And you asked me a question and I answered. You didn't push anything. You didn't. So what did you do? You took your personal brand and my personal brand, and we went from nothing to starting to develop a relationship.
There's a difference between a dream chaser and a dream catcher. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Dream Catchers podcast. I'm your host, Jerome. And when I tell you you're in for a treat, you're in for a treat this time. We're international, baby. We're international. We're up in Toronto, Canada.
You
And
got
I've got my friend, Alan McLaren, with me today. Now, you know, we talk about treats. And today is one of those conversations where you need to get your pen and your pad out because there are going to be some gems and some jewels dropped. And it doesn't matter where you are on your journey, whether you're at exit 1 or exit 8, that this is going to be beneficial and impactful for you. Alan caught my attention because in his LinkedIn headline, he has Squirrel Tamer. And I could not believe that such a professional, the consummate professional, would have that in there. So I had to figure out what it was. And as we started digging in, it just gave me insight into how cool and layered Alan is. And so I wanted to bring him to you guys so that you could get a taste of that magic. Alan, how are you, man?
Dude, I'm so happy to be with you, and I'm so glad that we've connected.
That makes two of us. So I, I'm building it up, right? What are you the world's leading expert on?
I think I'm if I think I help people figure out what they should be or help them unlock what's already in them.
Ooh,
They can kind of really be at their, I mean, it sounds cliche, but people get stuck real quick in their lives. And the work we do in personal branding, it sounds like it's all marketing and it's LinkedIn. No, it's really unlocking that beauty of what's inside you so you can share it with the world. I mean, there's a quote that we borrowed, and I can't remember the gentleman who did it, but it's find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. So that's the work I do, is to help them find out what they're unique about. And then we talk about all the ways to do that. But the first step is get yourself in a good place where you feel good about sharing your gift with the world.
okay. Now, most people would say, I'm not unique. I'm just like everybody else. And a
Yeah.
lot of people aspire to be like everybody else. Why is uniqueness important?
Well, you are unique. Think about this. Is there another human in the world that has been born with your experience and your path? There's not another one, and there'll never be another one. And Dr. Seuss was right. Only you are you, right? And when you think about, there's another, I'm kind of a full of quotes guy because I think there's such great perspectives. Our customers' number one question is, why would anybody listen to me? Right? You know what the answer is? What you think is normal, somebody else might find fascinating.
I, for experts, it's extraordinary. I think we diminish our understanding of the skills that we've acquired through our experience, whether it's formal training or on the job or just out in volunteer work.
100%.
So you make it plain that we're different, but many people, especially if they're going on the traditional path, are trying to fit in. Do
Yeah.
you think that's the right answer?
Well, what's fitting in, right? At the end of the day, whatever works for your path, you don't have to be, if you look at, let's say, Elon Musk, so he would be the epitome of not fitting in, right? You just got to be you. At the end of the day, can you be somebody else? I mean, we overuse the word authentic, but it is the number one thing. I can't be a joke teller. I'm not funny that way, right? So I'm not going to pretend to be a joke teller because I'm not good at it. I know I can be situationally funny when I'm in a group and we make a joke and that works for me. But the other stuff doesn't work. So I got to be me and you have to be you. And that magic is we can align beautifully together. So I don't think you have to fit in. You just have to be who you are, but make sure you know who you are and know what
Mhm.
your talents are. Then you have a chance to express them. But you got to start there.
So does your process help people understand who they are, or do they have to show up knowing? Because many
No.
folks aren't self-aware or self-conscious.
No, we have a thing we call a brand DNA, which is essentially we do a 90-minute in-depth forensic interview, if you will, myself and my business partner, Leanne, where I will tell you, we every second meeting, we have tears from people that because they're going back and thinking about what they're good at and sometimes they're we all wear masks sometimes, right? People think I have a CEO, I'm a CEO, I gotta wear a hat, I gotta wear a different hat when I go to church, I got a different hat when I'm with my family and when I'm playing soccer. And we say no, 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 one human. Let's make sure you have different authorities and different roles. Let's get the human out. That's hard for people because they've been wearing masks all this time. So our process unlocks that. And then they end up with a kind of a 3-pager, not a 50-pager. And says, this is your core. Here's your key pillars or perspectives. And here's some of the strategic things you need to think about before you decide to embark on content or LinkedIn or some other social network. So that's what we do first. And people can do that on their own if they don't want to get help. They've got to ask themselves questions they've never asked before. What am I good at? How do people, one great question we ask people is, if you are not in the room, what are people saying about you? And is it congruent with what you want them to say? If the answer is, I don't know, maybe that's a good thing to find out. That's your starting point because that's how you come across to the world, whether it's perceived or real. If that's what you come across to the world, then it's real. That's how you're doing it.
So that then translates to how you show up online?
Yeah, 100%. Because I'll give you an example. So when I got on this journey of actually doing personal branding for myself, it was as a business, we've been doing it for a little while. I thought, well, I'm a marketing guy. I know a lot about marketing. I've been a leader at YPO. And so I'll start doing videos on both just to see what happens. So I started doing videos on marketing and this is what you should do at Facebook and blah, blah, blah. I started doing videos on leadership. You know what I got? I got crickets on my marketing. Crickets. Nobody cared. My leadership stuff, that's where I got all the traction. And I went, what? They see me as the YPO dude, not as the marketing dude. They know I'm good at that. They don't care about that. They care about my leadership experience. And I went, that's really cool. And then subsequently, we've added personal branding experience. So now I talk about both leadership and personal branding. And now people see me that way. It's congruent with what I want. But it was a bit of an experiment. And people have to try. It's okay to start one way and then pivot because people care about you. That's the number one thing. They invest in you and what you know is a byproduct, but they invest in you first.
Man, that I feel like I just stepped into a new world because f- before I came into this conversation, I thought about branding as what you're putting out into the world, but it's just as much about how the world sees and thinks about you in
Yeah.
spite of whatever you think you're putting out. It's
Yeah.
almost as if you have to see if the reflection in the mirror is how you see or think about yourself, and then maybe there's a strategy to make adjustments to change the things. Does Is one more than important than the other?
Well, I mean, think about this. You do have to at some point present your content to the world, right? I mean, if you're going to be able to try to get on the radar of people you don't know, let's just think about how you and I came together, right? So you found me on LinkedIn through a search or whatever it is, trying to look for people that connect to, and you found the Chief Squirrel Tamer thing, and that grabbed you. So that you said, something about this dude. That was funny. That was cute. That was interesting. I hadn't heard that before. And when you connected with me, you said that. And I went, this is a guy that did some reading before he connected with me. So he cared. So what did I make decision on you? He did some research. He's an interesting character. And then a month later, you connected with me and you said something else about that and says, I need to find out more about this Chiefs. And you asked me a question and I answered. You didn't push anything. You didn't. So what did you do? You took your personal brand and my personal brand, and we went from nothing to starting to develop a relationship, to have a one-on-one conversation. I'm in Toronto, you're in the Carolinas. How the heck would that happen otherwise? We'd have to meet somewhere, right? It's just serendipity. So the idea is that example of not even putting out content, but my profile interested you. Then I check you out and I go, interesting guy. Then we decided to have a coffee, a virtual coffee, and we went, this is a guy I want to hang with. And here we are. And now you're going to help me, I'm going to help you. And that started how? Both of our personal brands did that before we met.
Wow. Wow. So the brand can open doors then.
The brand will open doors. But there's some provisos there. If you go out and pound your chest and say, look at me, nobody cares, and people will see through that, right? So and if you sell when you're out there and you're selling, look at me and look what I do and buy my thing. That's influencers. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. You know what you're getting when you got an influencer. But really, the purity of personal branding is what I said at the beginning. Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. What does that mean? You give everything you know to everybody you communicate with. Let me share. You're going to come to my world if you need my stuff. And if you don't need my stuff, I'm now helping you with your stuff, which is fantastic because we all have a bigger mission in the world, however you define it. We all have a bigger mission in the world, and it involves making other humans better. And that's where I get a charge. When I see people that I've talked to that are not doing business with us, but they're out on social media doing their best, that's a win for me. So you can be very strategic and intentional. But if you sell and you boast, no one will care and no one will come to your party.
Ooh. So I think that's a perfect segue into talking about the brand repelling people. And so I've seen the negative connotation connected with virtue signaling, but I think communicating values is pretty important. So, how do you manage this repelling and attraction? I'll call it energy around brands, personal
Well,
brands.
it's the easiest thing in the world. If you're telling a story about something that you want to share with the world, you own your story. You're not saying, hey, here's 3 steps to becoming a better personal brander, right? That's what my marketing does. I got a team that does that stuff. All good. When I talk, I want you to hear a story from me that helps you understand and learn so you can go apply that to the world. How can you get mad at me if I'm giving to you? How? How can you argue with me when I'm telling you a story that's my story? That my perspective, the real. You may not like it, but it's real. Now, if I go out and tell you all the things in the world that I'm amazing at, then you're going to go, I don't like this guy. So that's the other part. So I'm not doing that. I'm going out and say, here's a quote I'd like to share with you, or here's a story I found with one of our clients. One example I use is, and it shocks me to this day that that kind of stuff happens. One of our clients in Singapore said to us, thank you for changing my life. And we went, I got goosebumps thinking about it. I went, what do you mean changing your life? This is personal branding. This is not, psychology 101. She says, I now see myself the way you see me. So boom, right? And then that's where we started to realize we have a bigger opportunity to impact the world because we impact one leader, they impact lots of people in their lives, right? As you know, the people, the work you do, they're running businesses and they have families and they're involved in church, synagogue, mosque, whatever. They are leaders in their communities all the time. Wow, what a great opportunity when they're at their best to make everybody better. And that's part of the magic of give, 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 and everybody will love you because you're sincere. It's real, not because I need to get you to do this. That can really get old fast.
Ooh, give, give, give. In a world where there's so many takers and many people are focused on transaction, what can I get and
Yeah.
how can I give maybe as little as possible? Is it safe to be a giver?
No, absolutely not. It is not safe to be a giver, but I don't know another way, and I don't want to live another way. So I know who to take. I mean, it was that book from Adam Grant, right? Givers, Takers, and Matchers. I don't know if you've read it, but they're right. So awesome book, right? When I read the book and I went, okay. And all my friends are givers. All the people I hang with that I love are givers, right? They text me, how's it going, brother? What's going on? They're the people who I have in my corner. Now, the takers, I know who they are. Doesn't mean I don't talk to them. I just know when they talk to me, they want something. And then the matchers are the matchers. And so once you identify those people, you realize I'm still going to be a giver. I'm just going to be very careful with the takers because they're going to just suck me dry of what I know and what and people I know. And so that's how I think I would handle that. To me, it is the hardest thing to do to be a giver. I just can't do another thing because it's who you are. And if it's real, people know that.
So I want to go further down that hole because when I think about the brand, and you mentioned what are people saying about you when you're not in the room earlier, it made me think, and what made me think was you saying, I know they want something when they reach out to me. If you're perceived in that way, is it pretty difficult to shift that?
Well, humans are forgiving human on average, we're forgiving people, right? If you're sincere in your forgiveness, right? And so it is hard though, because if when you get to a certain age, you are who you are, right? And I'm not saying a giver or a taker is a better human being because I don't want to judge in that respect. But I know when I reach certain levels in YPO, people who I had reached out to when I was a nobody, who ignored me, all of a sudden were getting back to me. And I kind of go, that's kind of crappy. So when I look at it and say, okay, but I have a few examples in my mind, and then some other ones start to reach back out and say, okay, you're a taker, but you're a taker who thinks he has a good heart and you're doing good in the world. So I'll give you a little bit of time, but I'm going to give you this much time because you gave me nothing. I'll still give you time because I'm a giver. And so you just got to know that it is hard to come back from it for sure. Because you know what? We all have friends like that going, I don't want drama in my life. That happens on LinkedIn, on Facebook. It happens in real life. So the only way to come back for it is to first understand that that's you. You got to admit that, oh my God, that's me. I got to change, right? I only hang with givers and I hang with guys. Like I say this openly. I have a lot of guy friends that'll end the call and say, dude, I love you. And you know what? 30 years ago, you couldn't do that. Two guys couldn't say that to each other. But I have a network of people that I've now grown up with and connected with that's a cool thing to do. So that's what you got to put out in the world. And if it's real and it's sincere, you have a chance to come back. If you're not real and sincere and authentic, no one's going to care.
Got it. The authentic word keeps coming up.
Yeah, it's real.
So, so, I I'm gonna make you put the flag in the ground. I guess you can't fake your brand.
Can't fake it, man. Well, you can try, but I think people you see through it all the time, don't you? So the work we recommend with people is to do video, right? So why do we do that? Because it's the most authentic medium, right? So you can write something, you can write a white paper, but you on a camera like this is real, right? But then you say, well, I can do video and I can get all the cameras and all the lights and be perfect. What does it feel like then? It feels like marketing, right? So what we say to people is, no, we don't want you to overproduce the work you do. Use your phone, use Zoom, and maybe you want to flourish at the end, something pretty to have your brand there, but they want to see your face. That's really what makes it real. So that's what we, so that's why it's important to not overproduce this stuff. Because you see people all the time that are doing an amazing job, but it's definitely marketing. And even in the podcast, it's just another shell for marketing because the first 30 seconds is, well, here's our sponsor and here's what we do. And wait a minute, who's it about now? Is it about your audience or is it about you? If it's about your audience, they already love you because they're listening and you're bringing them gifts every time you bring a new guest. That's the real world. So that's where I'd like to take people and say, just give. They'll know who you are. Your LinkedIn profile's there and it says personal branding expert. If they want personal branding, they go, I like that dude. I don't like that dude. Right. But it's right there. You don't have to be overt about it.
Make it easy to see so they can sort and pick. So we've talked a lot of theory up to this point.
Mhm.
Maybe we could go a little more tactical.
Sure.
Are there specific components or parts to a brand?
Yeah, there are. And remember, I think, and I like to add personal brand in front of it because branding, company branding, although we would argue is similar, I don't think it is similar, right? Um, I mean, some of the tactics are similar, but yes, specifically, once you've done your brand DNA, you now, or your own brand DNA, whatever, discovering what you are about. Now it's about how do I create the content that lets me tell my stories, right? So what we do is we say, okay, let's pretend you're writing a book. If you pretend to write a book, what's a book? Well, it's got chapters, it's got a front cover and a back cover, and it has an inside jacket and has all kinds of stuff. But it really wraps the story around it. So say, okay, what's my topic? My topic is leadership. Well, leadership, there's 5,000 books on leadership. Why are you different? Okay, well, I'm different because I had this YPO experience and I had global reach and I had whatever, right? So you have some of those that you pick them. But imagine if it's a book and it's 12 chapters. 12 chapters is 12 topics. 4 weeks in each month, that's a video per week. So then under the topic of how to fire somebody properly, leadership, could be story one, story two, story three, story four. Now you've got that. You look at the end of the week, I got 48, 50 odd pieces of content I have planned out. Now I go record that because we recommend video in a batch. I do 6 at a time. And because humans, as you know, when you're doing something repeating, like the law of repetition, you get better at it, right? So while you're doing something, it might take you 10 takes to get it right, and then you'll get it right, and then the next 5 videos go quicker. So we recommend you batch it. Now you've got 6 pieces of content, 12 pieces of content. Now you're good. Now you just post it every week. Post a video. And then there's other things you can do. That's how you do it. You plan it out. So now you have a plan, and then you evaluate the content. You evaluate the engagement. How am I doing? Are my impressions going up on LinkedIn? You know, what I've learned is, what we've learned is, for example, I do certain types of content on LinkedIn that do so much better on Instagram. Why? It's a short video. It's 30 seconds. The longer form great is on YouTube. LinkedIn is somewhere in the middle. So you kind of, you got to game the algorithms to make sure you're maximizing. So a lot of people just say I'll post on all channels, and that's fine. It's easier. But in a perfect world, your content on LinkedIn is different than your content on Facebook, is different than your content on, and nobody has time to do it all. So maybe position the message differently. Same video, but you know who you're talking to on Facebook is different than who you're talking to on LinkedIn. So those are some of the tactical things that people do to get started, but also go learn. Go to YouTube and type in anything you want. Use ChatGPT or any of the tools. They'll teach you so much about this that you can go out with a little confidence.
Oh man, YouTube University. I think it's the most inefficient and ineffective way to get information, but
It's
that's
hard, for
me.
sure. But then you have to pay coaches or people like us, which again, what we tell people is you can do it on your own. It's time and resources. So you trade time for money. With one of the guys we're working with today, says, I want to do the work myself. I said, great, we'll be your coach. You're going to do the work and we're going to give you homework.
Hey guys, as you might know, a very small percentage of the people who actually listen to this podcast are subscribers. So do us a favor, subscribe In fact, we did some analytics and we found out that only 25% of the people who listen are subscribers. And our goal is to get that to about 75% over the next 3 months. So do us a favor, hit the subscribe button so you get notified when our new episodes come. We plan to bring immense value to you guys going forward as we continue to improve the content that we create at Dream Cafe. Your dreams should be real. Let's get back to the show.
And you're going to finish your homework, and we're not going to meet you on the second time till you do your homework on the first time. Because if you do, we're just wasting your time and mine. But without us, it might take 6 months before he does something. Why? Because it's easy to procrastinate. When you have a coach, then that's what it is. So that's what, guys like you and I do, is we help people be accountable to what they say they want to do. And then we make them do it better because of our experience. You can do it all on your own. It'll just take twice as long because the experience is important, right?
Well, yeah, I liken it to being in a new place and walking down a hallway and not knowing which doors are locked at the end of the hall or during that hallway.
Yeah,
And we do, and we can open the door, you go in, and it's just the efficiency of not going in places that you don't need to go because there's
right.
nothing for you there.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so you took the time to differentiate branding, right? Personal brand versus corporate branding for the people out there who are like, oh, I'm in marketing or I'm in sales. I know branding. I don't need a personal branding consultant or expert to support me. What's the difference between the two?
Well, a marketing person and a personal branding person, the difference, or
Well, a
a marketing
corporate
person?
brand and a personal brand.
So a corporate brand is the brand is an entity, right? But it's a combination of sometimes thousands of people, right? So what I always talk about branding is it's the same thing. What do people say about your brand when you don't know? Just ask. So what do you think of when you think of Walmart? You're going to say low prices. What do you think about when you think of Apple? You're going to think of they think differently, right? So you have that. All those are really clear. What do you think about when we think about Jerome?
Mhm.
They're not going to describe it the same way. Oh, his tagline is, no, they're going to say, you know what? He's a giving human being. He cares deeply about people. He's smart as hell, but not arrogant. And they're going to start rhyming off attributes that describe you. That's the difference. And what the problem with people today is they think sharing company content is personal branding because it's going on to my LinkedIn, but it's not. It's now distribution. And it doesn't work because my audience doesn't care about my press release from my company. Don't care. Now, if it's something that I had a perspective on that my company was doing that would relate to my audience, now it's getting closer because it's my perspective. So that's the difference. And with respect to all the marketers, because I was one for 20 years, marketing and personal branding are not the same. Marketing is a good discipline. We do it in our business for our entity called Strata Originals. And then I do my personal brand, and Leanne does her personal brand. And they're different than what we're talking about when we're talking about Strata. So they're related because we want to get there at some point and have people come and work with us. That's obviously the goal. But sharing company content is not the way to get there. Not the way at all. Doesn't work. Look at your
It
analytics.
doesn't.
It works.
It doesn't work. We've
Right?
got a lot of data and it
A lot
doesn't
of
work.
data that just says it doesn't work, but they keep doing it. Yeah.
So I think at this point, they know what a personal brand is. They may be saying, yeah, I hear you. Uh, I just don't want to be out there. What do you
Yeah.
say in response to that?
So what's holding you back?
I just, I'm trying to sound like them. They,
Yeah.
I don't think they'll like the way my voice sounds, or I don't like the way I look on camera, or, if I
All
tell
true.
them that story about me, they might not like me.
Yeah. All those are absolutely true. And every single 90% of the people we talk to have some sort of fear. Every single one of them, with the exception of really confident people. And you know what always happens, Jerome? Every single time they get on the other side of that comfort zone, and the thanks we get, they're paying us. They're giving us a lot of money. And they go, oh my God. And they just talk, and all they say is, thank you for helping me get over that. So we're with you. We're going to hold your hand. So you realize that no one really gives, no one cares that deeply if you're not being an ass, excuse my language. If you're being sincere, you have people out there who love you, who want to support you. That's who we're talking to. You're not Gary Vaynerchuk, where you have millions of followers. You got 1,500 people, and 500 of them know you well. That's who you're talking to. That's the start. If you don't want to do it, fine, right? I remember this quote from 20 years ago. I can't remember the guy who wrote it, but it said, "Get out there and let stuff hit you." Right? Get out there and let stuff hit you. In the old days, it was you had to go to events, you had to go to right, you had to get out. Now we have LinkedIn. Do you know two of my best friends today? Best friends started on LinkedIn. Best friends started on LinkedIn.
Well, three, because I
Three
mean,
now. I got you. Three now.
yeah.
Three. So, but isn't that, how can that, if you can imagine how that can be? One of them's Arizona, one of them's in Toronto, and you. So there's three now. So, right, think about what that is. So, what if you don't do anything, nothing will happen.
If you don't do anything, nothing's going to change for sure.
Nothing will change, nothing will happen, and no opportunity will show up on your doorstep because they don't. Right? The law of attraction, what does it say? Do stuff and stuff will happen. You don't do anything and you dream about getting whatever, nothing's going to happen. You just got to take action. This is an action you can take if you choose to take it. If you don't do it, you won't know what you're missing. So fine, you'll still be happy, maybe, hopefully. And it's not for everybody. I love it because it's taught me that you can teach people and watch them succeed. And that's always been what I love to do is I always love to see people succeed. And now I get to do it at scale with leaders. Wow, what a dream for me.
Mm. Man, I love when people make their dreams a reality. I believe dreams should be real. And the fact that you're doing the work that is a dream, it it makes me really, really, really happy. When I think about the people who are hesitant to put themselves out there because they're worried about being judged,
Mm-hmm.
I think back to when I was challenged in a cabin in Tennessee to post on social media every day for 90 days just to see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
My world, I linked for LinkedIn in particular, it was the logo for the company. That was my
Mm-hmm.
profile picture. And I never posted any pictures of myself.
Yeah.
And the moment, not the moment, because nobody responded to the first one. But eventually, like within a few weeks, I would get messages like, "Hey, man, um, I have more confidence in what I could do because of what you shared."
Wow.
And I was like, "What?" And it just continued to grow and grow, and more people started showing up.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that by hiding from the world, I was not letting the light shine that so many people were looking for.
Got it.
And, in the fear of whatever was holding me back, and I'm not quite sure what that was today, I realized that I was being selfish.
Hmm.
I was being selfish. I was only thinking about me and not the people who I could potentially help on
Yeah.
their journey based on my experience.
Yeah.
And whether we had a financial transaction or not, there were things that I could do to help people along their path. And who was I to keep that from the world?
Yeah.
And there's been a number of other people that I've had that same conversation with, and I've seen them to go on and do some really impressive things. And while most of us probably didn't have a consultant like you helping us figure it out, and we probably made a ton of mistakes along the way, the fact of the matter is doing this work is so important. And then helping people have a great experience, right? The efficiency piece so that they keep going because the
100%.
results are intoxicating when you get it right. It can also be very disparaging if you get it wrong. But there's a lot of ways where you could do this well. And you've talked about a couple of them, both right and wrong ways to get things done. And I think that's just tied into your experience and the success that you've had with your clients. If you had to talk about one of your clients that had the biggest transformations, you talked about the lady in Singapore already. Who would you tell that story about?
Well, without saying a name, it's a recent client who has become our biggest fan. And what does that mean to us? It means that she's talking to everybody about us every corner we turn. And we're not prompting anything. And what it was just about giving her the confidence to be able to showcase what she's brilliant at. Exactly what you talked about with your 90 days of effort. This was every single time. I don't know. I'm not sure. My makeup, my this, my that, all that stuff. I said, no, 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 just watch. Let's get some stuff going. You'll see what happened. First video she goes out, blows up. Like blows up for her. It's all relative, right? It's all relative blowing up. It's not Gary Vaynerchuk blowing up. And then you see all the, oh, and you see her friends. I love this is great. I love that you're out. The gift that you talked about earlier, now she knows she has it. So that's the magic that we're talking about is leaders, and you know this because you work with them, and I work with, hundreds and hundreds of them. You don't get to be CEO by accident. I mean, there is the Peter principle, but on average, you've done enough to get to a place where you're leading a company. There's a story there, there's perspectives there, and cool things there, and impact that you don't even know you have. And the one thing I always tell people is this. You might say to yourself, wow, my engagement is really low. I only get 3 people, 4 people looking at my stuff. I said, no, no, no. They're not looking at your stuff. Those are 3 people that decided to say something about your stuff. 90% of the people on LinkedIn don't say anything. It's like 9%. So 9% of the people say something. Do you know the impact that you're making on people and you don't even realize it? That's the beauty. If you think past yourself as you did, Jerome, and you said it's about others, then what you're delivering about others, the measurement is about others, not about you.
Mhm.
And that's what we get people to kind of see as the aggregate of your work is the thing look at, not video one that nothing happened. You did 45 videos. You contributed to the narrative of the world. And it's all sitting on your YouTube channel and it's there forever. That's kind of cool. Someone 30 years from now can look at that and go, wow, look at what this guy talked about. That's really cool. I learned something for my school project or for my dad or for my mom, or you don't even realize that's stuff that's happening when you're out there.
Man, I'll never forget the first time somebody walked up to me and said, "Hey, I follow you on LinkedIn."
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that
Huh?
crazy?
I
Crazy.
feel like I know you already. And then how quickly the conversation advances from, "Hey, this is me, this is what I do," to, "Hey, what's really going on in your life? Let's talk about your family. Let's talk about your challenges and whatever
Yeah.
you're going through." uh, you become humans really quickly versus sizing each other up and figuring out if you can be vulnerable and thinking about what you got to watch out for and worrying about protecting yourself. It that speed of trust
Yeah.
through what I'll call personal branding is magic, especially when you actually want to get some stuff done.
That's Jerome, that's the game. It is all about building trust. And if you deliver value to people, like when I say to people, oh, I'm afraid, I said, well, what are you afraid? Let's explore the fear. Because fear is always irrational. It's never real. It's always the big monster behind you, and it's never real. And none of it ever comes true. We know that, but we're human. So we experience it all the way. So in our world, we say to the people, let's try this and see how bad it is. And then they realize there's no snake there. Nobody's biting them, right? And there's this, and we make it safe. So we'll just make it safe for you. And then they do it and they see this impact. And humans need validation, right? So that's part of the world we live in. So that once they get that validation, they go, it's not so bad. And now and then it's so hard to stop them. Then they're just unleashed, which is just magic. But what they'll see is they'll go to an event with family or friends and they'll get the comment like that. I follow you on LinkedIn, or I see your post, they're really cool. I have I go to events in YPO and the spouses come up to me and say, "Oh, I follow you all the time." I said, "You follow you? You're not even in business." I'm going, "What?" So you start to realize you are making an impact. And then we're not, curing polio and changing the world, but one step at a time you are. You're making somebody better. You're making them think about something. You're showing some love. All that we need more of that, right?
That the impact and the minimization of the impact. So you talked about the three people that
Yeah.
engage with the content, but there's an impression number where there's more people that saw the content than the ones that engage. I
Yes.
call the people who don't engage in the content lurkers. Some people get
Yeah,
upset about that, but it's the way I feel. It's like, hey, 1% of the people on LinkedIn are content creators, and the
you
rest
got
of
it.
the people are just consuming it.
Correct.
Let the content creator know that you appreciate the content being created,
Yeah.
because I mean, they might feel like they're speaking into a void, and they might feel like it's a waste of time, especially if they're making an investment to get that content, get some help with the content creation. But to each is their own, and I guess you get the validation if you're willing to stick with it long enough. um and so, with that said, uh, where would you tell someone, where would you send them if they were trying to get started? Because this self-discovery thing, I think, is pretty tough. It's hard to read the label when you're in the jar.
Yeah.
So maybe we
Yeah.
should talk about like the brand DNA and how to find out more about that.
Yeah. So a couple things. I'd say if you're on the journey right now or you want to start the journey, the first thing I'd recommend you do is go online and start commenting on other people's stuff. People that are already in your network, just start because that is also part of the strategy for our clients. Post stuff, but engage. Right? If you're a celebrity, can't do that because you can't respond to the content, right? So, but most of us are not celebrities, don't want to be celebrities, don't want to be famous. We're doing this because there's a means to an end in there. So I tell people, go on and do that. What you're going to see from that is the goal is engagement at the end of the day. Learn what other people are doing and saying, oh, I love the way Jerome positions that. I love the way Alan does that. I don't like the way that person does that. And start to learn that. And again, practice on your phone. Point it at your face, start talking, see what happens. And just remember what we tell people is this: you pick the topic, whatever the topic is. And then how are you going to start the video? And they call it a hook, but how are you starting the video? And what story are you going to tell? That's it. And do it in 90 seconds or 2 minutes. First time you do it, you're going to feel like a fool. The second time, you're going to feel less like a fool. And the 10th time, you'll get better. And we were with a client yesterday, and he said, this is really hard for me. I said, and I almost said his name, but I said, dude, do you remember when we first talked? One of the reasons you want to do this is because as an introvert, you knew you hated this. And this was like broccoli. You knew you had to eat it, but you knew you were going to hate it. And now do you hate it? He goes, no. I said, that's the point. You have now learned and developed how to do that. You've developed a skill that you are better at. Go look at video one from a year ago and look at video 40. And you tell me you're not better. He goes, you're right. I said, so you've grown, which means you're a better storyteller when you're in front of your company, when you're in front of your family. So you're also developing a skill. So practice. And when you feel comfortable, post it. If you're not comfortable, just keep playing till you are. Show your friends, show your family. Tell them, how does that look? Yeah, look, you look like an idiot. All right, let's do it again. Right? Or you look great. Go do it. Take a chance. That's
Yeah.
how we started.
I
Just get
think a lot
started.
of us take ourselves too seriously.
Oh,
And so you say the first step is just start making something. It doesn't have to be polished or perfect. Just make something, show it to the people in your trusted circle, and
Yeah,
then okay, I got over that.
yeah.
I think I'm ready to start posting now. Do I
Yeah.
just go post or should I get some help?
Well, it depends how strategic it is, right? It comes back to your goals. If you're a young person and you're trying to build your career, you're not going to be able to afford outside consultants, so that's not going to work, right? So you got to go on self-discovery learning. So go on ChatGPT and Proximity and learn all you can. Go type in personal branding and go follow companies like ours and go, I'm going to go to the learning center. I'm going to watch Alan's videos. I'm going to go to this other guy's videos and just learn and learn and learn and learn. And then start to take advantage of this. Okay, I'll go on Twitter and I'll start to just write things because it's more comfortable than video. See what kind of stuff happens. All right, nobody cares. All right, good. So I'll try Instagram. I'll just do a picture with me and my buddies and I'll do something around it. Oh, yeah, that worked. 30 people said hello. Oh, that's good. And then because what people forget is if you take a picture of yourself with other business executives and you're at an event and you tag them, those things are going to blow up versus a perfectly done post with everybody writes these long posts, right? People in my world, they write long posts and say, just can you do that in a video? People will listen to you because they want to listen to you. And then they'll have the caption. So if they're on the toilet, they'll read it. Right? Which is because that's where people they don't sit down and go, let me look at content. They're in between stuff. TV, thing. I'm watching the soccer game with my son. This is a break. And they check out content. So you got to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
So just be you and good things will happen over time.
All right. And so then we get to the people who actually are getting support from you guys. And, it's going to be more senior level folks, folks who are in the high paying careers
Yeah.
in the looking for the answer versus trying to learn on their own,
Yeah.
getting direction. So you, do you recommend them going straight into like some type of discovery call or is it brand DNA? Like, how does it work?
So the first step is you got to make sure you're working with the right people, right? So what we try to do is we do a discovery call to make sure that there's a right connection between them. Because without a connection, nothing matters. Because we're going to get in deep with you. You're going to be a friend when this is done. I was talking to a buddy the other day, and I said, I was thinking back to all the people we've worked with in the last 3 years. Some we're not working with today. Why? He's gone off to write a book. She's gone off to run a company, and they're now comfortable doing it all on their own. I'm going, there's not one that wouldn't work with us again. Why? You develop a friendship and an intimacy, and you're helping, and they know you care. That matters. So discovery call is the first thing to make sure there's a fit, right? And clear objectives. Once that's done, we don't go anywhere without a brand DNA. So, oh, I'm ready to go. No, no, no. We're doing this because there's a lot about you that you don't know and you never thought about. We're going to do that first. And then path one is you want to do it on your own? We'll be your coach for 90 days or 6 months or a year, or we'll do it for you because you're a busy CEO. You're still going to do the content with us, but we're going to give you specific things. You need to do this, this, and this. We're going to measure what you do, and we're going to measure everything else, and we'll do it for you. Or we'll train you and your team. That's it. Those are the options. It makes it real easy for a executive to engage, but they have to have a clear goal as to why they're doing it. Sometimes they don't know that. That's what the discovery thing will do is they'll say, you know what? I will not be the CEO. I'm going to exit this business to the work that you do. I will be selling this business and I haven't given much thought to what's next. And I have seen too many depressed people that I will now introduce to you who've dropped 20, 30, 40 million dollars into their bank account and they ain't happy. And I go, how's that possible? Because money doesn't do the trick. We're humans. And so you and I work on two sides of the same coin. When someone sells their business, what's next is the big question. And it ain't going to Bahamas. Once you bought the boat and you bought the motorcycle and you bought the plane, there's nothing left other than you and your family and your humanity. What are you doing about it? What's the next mountain? We both work on that, helping them with the next mountain. And that's a ton of fun to help them figure that out and then let them fly. It's really cool.
Man. So if they want to find out more, what do they do?
Look at me on LinkedIn. Find Alan McLaren on LinkedIn. My email is alan@strataoriginals.com. That's the two best ways. Tell them that you heard me here with my new best friend, Jerome. And we're happy to have a conversation to see if we're a fit for you or to help in any way. Questions, whatever you think. We're happy to help. That's what we do first is help first, business second.
Help first, business second. Alan, I think you are the epitome of what a dream catcher is. I think you embody the spirit of making the world a better place and everybody that come in contact with you being better because of that encounter. And so because of that, I want to tell you thank you. I think that give first mentality is something that so many people miss. And I think if they were able to embrace that, they would have an experience that was so much richer. And, you living it out and reaping the rewards from living it out s- should serve as an example and give people hope that you can be a giver and still get ahead in this world.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It's just so cool to have connected with you and at the beginning of our new friendship. And we're going to support each other in this journey, and that's what it's all about.
Man. Well, to the listeners, your dreams should be real. We'll catch you on the next episode.